Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to everybody, and welcome to this Sickle Cell Disease Patients Educational Session at the ASCAT, EHA, and BSH 2020 meeting. I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of the steering committee today that was very well pleased to have a patients dedicated session at the side of the general ASCAT program. And many of you have been here last year, have been at the ASCAT meeting last year. Several of you are new. And I'm glad that the program this year is very much enriched compared to last year. We have pre-recorded sessions. We have Meet the Patients and Meet the Expert sessions. But what the steering committee wants to tell everybody is that sickle cell disease cannot be treated and cured without you. You are not only as patients the receivers of care, but you are the main champions, and we cannot do anything without your input. So we all look forward to what you are going to bring to the floor in the upcoming 2 days, and the entire community of experts is going to wait to hear what you highlight on the Saturday plenary sessions. So have a nice few days of meeting, enjoy working together, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you very much, Rafael. So I'm also very honored to welcome all of you on behalf of the ERN-EuroBloodNet coordination team. For us, in the ERN-EuroBloodNet, sickle cell disease is really one of the priority, one of the major clinical area we work with. You may have heard many projects we carry on, like the cross-border collaboration agreement for bone marrow transplantation in Europe, the creation of European patient registry, the preceptorship we are organizing for health professionals, the repository of educational and teaching material, the establishment of the European network of sickle cell disease patients organizations, the training session as this one for patients, and also one of our major priority is really to give visibility to sickle cell disease at the scientific community, public at large, and at the community of patients. And I think that really community is one of the keywords we want to use here today for this event, because our objective in organizing such training event, it's not just the idea of raising awareness into patients, sickle cell disease patients and parent patients, but it's also to strengthen the collaboration among physicians that are here today with us and patients, among all the sickle cell disease patients advocates in Europe, but also worldwide, because here today we really have a global representation of sickle cell disease advocates, and also to have an occasion to share all together best practices, idea, needs, identify needs, propose new actions. So we really encourage to feel today as a community of people that want to give a better quality of life to all sickle cell disease patients. And I'm very pleased to pass the floor to Agnes Nsofa. She's the CEO of the Australian Sickle Cell Disease Advocacy Association. She has taken part to ASCAT 2019 last year, and so she is with us for giving her testimonies. Please, Agnes.
Thank you very much, Maria Angela and Rafael and everybody who's connected to the ASCAT conference. So I did a 3 minutes presentation of just my experience and what I'm going to present today. So if I can just share my screen. As Maria Angela said, I'm Agnes. I'm in Australia just after 3 a.m. this morning, and I'd just like to thank you again to the ASCAT organizers of this conference. Also want to thank EuroBloodNet and the British Society of Hematology for giving us this opportunity to give these separate sessions for patients and caregivers to raise awareness or raise the issues that is affecting us, the community of patients and caregivers. So I I just want to give my experience of last year's ASCAT. So for me, it was a very important session. I was invited by chance by a colleague of mine. Daniel encouraged me to come to ASCAT, and I was further introduced to Baba Inusa, and who invited me to the patient session. It was very, very informative and honored to contribute to the matters of affecting sickle cell patients and caregivers. So for me, I felt it was a very good presentation, the first ever to give a voice to the patients and the caregivers who actually are affected by the condition, and for you to open the floor to patients. I think it was a very, very impressive thing to do. And the sessions were very impressive, and the format of the program, which was very good. It gave the patients and caregivers a complete control to raise the issues that is affecting this community of patients. So our overview of the session, as we are told, it was the first ever session to happen at any conference, and it was a joint conference by the EuroBloodNet and the ASCAT. The session aimed to create a platform for the patients and the forum. We were at least 20 patients coming from the European Union countries, and of course myself from Australia. During the workshop, everyone had an opportunity to express our views. So we sat in 3 different sessions to actually come up with different topics that we felt affected this community of patients. Out of, I don't know how many questions we had to deliberate for so many hours. We had breaks. And in the end, we had about 10 questions, the 10 questions that we thought stood out from all the different questions we had. The list was very long. And I'm hoping in the future that some of the questions that were not picked up can also be used for research. So some of the questions that were presented, some of them were like, how can we find a universally available cure for sickle cell disease? How can we improve the quality of life for people living with sickle cell disease? What are the implications of sickle cell disease for work and education? How do we advise people, employers, and schools? How do we manage acute pain to prevent hospitalization? How does staff diversity and lack of diversity affect the way patients experience racism, discrimination, and stigma? How do we harness the political agendas to improve care for sickle cell disease? How can we optimize pregnancy for mother and baby in sickle cell disease? What complementary therapies work in sickle cell disease, including CBD and cannabis? How do we manage chronic pain? What does the impact of comprehensive care team on outcomes for people living with sickle cell disease? So as I said, this was a very informative session for all of us. It gave us control as patients and caregivers, especially the patients in the room and other stakeholders as well, to come up with some of the topics that are rarely discussed. And I just hope this is going to continue, and the questions that were not discussed can be used for further research, because I feel this is what we are talking about as patients, because we've seen that you are, as a patient, you are your own voice, and for you to give the voice to patients and caregivers, I felt as a participant, this was a very good thing to do. So that was my experience, and at this point, I'll give the floor to Mariangela to share the video, just the experience of some of the patients who were there last year. Thank you.
Sickle cell disease is a lifelong inherited red blood cell disorder which can lead to disability or even premature death in its severe forms. ERN-EuroBloodNet promotes educational activities addressed at people living with sickle cell disease. That's why, the 20th and 21st of October 2019, EuroBloodNet has invited a group of 20 participants, patients and parent patients, coming from worldwide to the Sickle Cell Disease Research Prioritization Workshop at ASCAT conference in London. Its aims were to introduce patients' involvement in research to people living with sickle cell disease. It was a joint project of the ERN-EuroBloodNet ASCAT members and the Patients Engagement Group Oxford Blood Group. During the workshop, everyone got the opportunity to express their views on the most important aspects of living with sickle cell disease that might be improved with more research.
Hi, I'm Miriam. I'm from Portugal. What do I think of the ASCAT experience? It was very interesting and a rich experience to gather people from different age ranges and from different countries to share their experiences, their concerns, also with the scientific community, and to discuss what they know and where they want to go. And it is important for the scientific community because they have set budgets and deadlines and they know what they want to investigate, but it is important to be in line with what it is also important for the patients. And that's why having a voice in the scientific community, it's so good. I hope we will be able to take part in many more initiatives.
My personal experience is that professional medical academics have a hard time to properly estimate the intensity of a patient's pain and if a patient's pain is true. I crossed paths with doctors and pharmacists that accused me from abusing my medication, while part of me often wishes that I would give anything for just a second without pain, and that my doctors would actually be able to truly understand me. Another part of me would not wish this upon my worst enemy. While you're laying there completely helpless and every fiber of your body screams out of pain, the last thing you need is a person who doesn't believe you or takes you seriously. The problem with physical pain is it cannot be measured, it cannot be demonstrated, it can only be felt and be described. With sickle cell patients, it means that there has to be trust between patients, doctors and pharmacists, since we work so closely together and with strong addictive painkillers. It is a relationship that takes time and effort, just like every relationship. If we want this to work, we'll have to work together. This by open communication, listening, honesty and trust. We can't do this without you. You can't do this without us.
My name is Andreas Athanasiou. I come from Cyprus and last October had the opportunity to participate in the SCD patient workshop as a part of ASCAT conference in London. It was a great experience for me. I got to discuss different aspects of sickle cell disease with other patients from several countries and different backgrounds and how we deal with it practically as well as socially and psychologically. All of us had the space and the time to tell our story, which was very similar to each other's. The important thing was that we ended our sessions with a top 10 list of research questions that we wanted to be heard and considered by doctors and researchers. From my point of view, medical treatment aims at improving a patient quality of life, so patients' options must be valued.
My name is Ifeanyi Beverly Chukwudozie. In 2019, I attended the ASCAT conference and also the Patient Prioritization Workshop. It was amazing and memorable because this was the first time I saw this level of patient involvement in a medical conference. Patients were able to identify top 10 research topics that researchers should address. It is important that patients are involved in research and not just engaged with research because it makes them drivers of change. They're part of the research and the research is very, very relevant to the needs of the patient and also improves the quality of life.
Hi, I'm Connie Michelle. I'm 40. I live in Italy and I am manager representative of patients in the Padova Hospital. Oh Jesus, this session of ASCAT 2009 was a beautiful moment. Patients of several countries shared their experiences and their journey. It was a very great support between patients. We talked about our story, our difficulty, our pain, our trials, but we also talked about our strength and everything can help us avoid pain. A crucial moment was when patients related and agree all together on important 10 points called top 10. Then they presented it to the speakers. Then I realized that we are not alone. Not only EuroBloodNet, but the whole world is interested by this disease, sickle cell, and determined to fight it. Let's be strong, let's be confident, let's fight together. Good 19 June to all. Thank you.
Drawing on their own experience of sickle cell disease, the group was asked to write down issues that they felt demanded greater attention from research, a single word, an experience, or a falliform research question. The ideas were written on post-it notes and put up on the wall of the conference room. The facilitators grouped the individual notes into 50 individual themes. The group then collectively discussed each themes to arrive at a number of research questions or topics for each themes, resulting in 42 unique research questions. The group was then invited to vote for their top 10. Each individual was given 10 post-it notes representing a hypothetical $100 million to spend on research. They were asked, if you were allocating this money for research, how would you spend it? The group then created a presentation and presented it to the ASCAT conference in the afternoon plenary session. The results of this process were counting to arrive at the top 10 research topics for sickle cell disease. We let you scrolling and discovering them.